The daughter of a female millionaire lay in a coma for many days at Swedish First Hill Hospital, in the drizzly heart of Seattle. The room was bright white. The machines sounded in steady rhythms, as if speaking for everyone's helplessness. The doctors had given up. The best specialists from around the world flew in one after another, and then quietly left, leaving behind unfinished treatment plans and bewildered shakes of the head. Then a man appeared, a poor janitor, his dark coat still wet with rain at the shoulders. He stood in the doorway, looked at the girl for a long moment, then stepped in, leaned close, and whispered 5 words that stunned the entire room. "I can wake the girl." The female millionaire let out a slight scoff, as if she had just heard a bad joke in the midst of despair. But what happened next changed everything. This is not just a story. This is a miracle, and you will find the ending hard to believe. If you love stories that touch the heart and honor faith amid the storm, hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. In your view, what made that man believe he could wake the girl, and how? Let's keep going to find the answer. Morning in Seattle. The sun had just risen, its fragile golden light reflecting on the surface of Lake Union. 2 families began their day in completely different ways. In a small apartment in Capitol Hill, Lucas Brennan woke up at 5 a.m. The 1-bedroom apartment wasn't big, but it was filled with warmth. Lucas, 38, with the faint wrinkles of long nights etched at the corners of his eyes, was flipping pancakes for his 9-year-old son, Dylan. "Dad, I have a soccer game today," Dylan cheered, eyes bright as lamps. Lucas smiled. "I know, buddy. I took the day off. I'm not missing your game." They high-fived, a simple moment Lucas treasured more than anything in the world. Lucas had been working the night shift as a janitor at Swedish First Hill Hospital for 3 years. The job wasn't glamorous, but it allowed him to spend his days with Dylan. After his wife, Sarah, passed away from ovarian cancer 2 years ago, Lucas quit his job as a nurse's aide. Watching Sarah fade away in the hospital left a wound that would never heal. But from those final months beside her, Lucas learned something. Presence has healing power. Every day he sat by her bed, talking, singing, reading poetry, and in her final moments, Sarah woke just long enough to squeeze his hand and whisper, "I heard everything. I love you." Now, every night as he cleaned ICU rooms, Lucas still whispered to the comatose patients, "Hey there, I'm Lucas. Your room's clean now. Your family's here. They love you so much." The nurses sometimes thought he was a little odd, but they all noticed one thing. The patients Lucas talked to often had steadier heartbeats. Across the city, in a penthouse overlooking Elliott Bay, Vivian Hart was preparing for an important day. She was the CEO and founder of HeartTech AI, a multi-billion-dollar tech company. At 42, Vivian had built her empire from scratch. But success always comes with a price. In her sleek, modern kitchen, her 9-year-old daughter, Clara, was having breakfast with the housekeeper, Rosa. Clara was bright, top of her class, and a gifted pianist. But behind her eyes hid a sadness she couldn't disguise. "Mom, I have a piano recital today," Clara said softly, looking up as her mother scrolled through her phone. Vivian glanced up for a second. "Sweetheart, I have an important meeting with Tokyo. We'll celebrate this weekend, okay?" Clara nodded, but her eyes dimmed. This wasn't the first time, not the 10th. It was the countless time Vivian had promised and forgotten. Rosa looked at the little girl with pity. She had cared for Clara since she was 3 and knew Clara lacked nothing, except the one thing she needed most, her mother's presence. Vivian had divorced Richard Hart 3 years earlier. He was a cold investor, perhaps even more ruthless than she was. After the divorce, Vivian poured all her energy into work, believing she was building her daughter's future. But in truth, she was missing Clara's present. That day, at Lakeside School, Clara aced her math test. The teacher praised her. Classmates admired her, but kept their distance. Clara was so intelligent that others found it hard to approach her. Few truly befriended her. At lunch, she sat alone, quietly eating her sandwich. She opened her small diary, a place for things no one else knew. April 20th. Mom forgot the recital again. Rosa came and clapped really loud, but I wanted Mom there. Sometimes I wonder, if I disappeared, would she even notice? That afternoon, after her piano lesson, Rosa came to pick her up. On the way home, Clara suddenly said, "Rosa, I don't feel well." "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Rosa turned, panicked. Clara tried to answer, but her eyes rolled back, her body trembling violently. Then she collapsed, unconscious. Rosa screamed for help. The ambulance tore through Seattle's streets, sirens wailing. They rushed Clara to Swedish First Hill, the nearest and best hospital. The emergency room was flooded with harsh lights and urgency. Doctors and nurses surrounded Clara, checking every vital sign. Vivian rushed in, abandoning the most important meeting of the year. "Where's my daughter? Where's Clara?" Vivian nearly shouted at the reception desk. They led her into the ER. For the first time in years, Vivian Hart, the woman who controlled everything, felt utterly powerless. Head physician Dr. Nora Bennett came out, her face tense. "Ms. Hart, we've stabilized Clara." But what?" Vivian gripped her hands tightly. "Clara has fallen into a coma. We haven't identified the cause yet. It could be a viral brain infection, an autoimmune disorder, or—" Dr. Bennett hesitated. "Extreme stress, leading to neurological collapse." "Stress? She's only 9. Vivian's voice cracked. "Sometimes children absorb pressure in ways adults fail to see," Dr. Bennett said gently. "We'll run every necessary test. Right now, Clara needs time." Clara was moved to ICU, room 317. The room was spotless, sterile white, surrounded by machines. Clara lay motionless beneath a pink blanket, fragile. Tubes wound around her like invisible restraints. Vivian sat down beside the bed. For the first time in her life, she felt useless. Vivian could buy nearly anything, but she couldn't buy her daughter's consciousness back. Vivian Hart was not the kind of woman who gave up easily. Within 24 hours, she had mobilized an elite team. Neurologists from Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, even a specialist from Switzerland who flew directly to Seattle. The waiting room beside the ICU instantly turned into a command center. Large monitors filled the walls, displaying test results, brain activity charts, and flashing data streams. Vivian hired additional assistants, consultants, even AI engineers to analyze every second of information. The first specialist proposed experimental stem cell therapy. The results in Zurich have been promising. They tried. Clara showed no response. The second said, neural stimulation using high-frequency electromagnetic waves, a new technology from Japan. They tried. Nothing changed. The third suggested algorithm-guided treatment protocols. Feed in all the data, and the system will generate the optimal approach. They tried. Clara remained motionless. Dr. Nora Bennett observed everything with a tense face. 20 years in medicine had never prepared her for a case like this. What worried her more was how Vivian treated her daughter like a technical problem waiting for a solution. "Ms. Hart," Dr. Bennett began carefully during one examination, "perhaps Clara needs more than medical intervention. Sometimes coma patients respond to what? Prayers." Vivian cut her off, her voice icy. I believe in science, Dr. Bennett, not miracles. Dr. Bennett fell silent. She had seen too many families obsessed with fixing, while forgetting the prerequisite, connection. Lucas Brennan worked the night shift, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. He quietly passed through corridors, patient rooms, ICU halls. The work was monotonous and repetitive, but he performed it with rare dedication. In a hospital, cleanliness wasn't just aesthetics, it was safety. It was respect for the sick. On the third night after Clara's admission, Lucas was assigned to clean the ICU floor. He pushed his cart along the hallway, the wheels humming softly with the steady rhythm of the machines behind room 317. Through the glass window, he saw a woman in an expensive suit, her hair neatly tied, pacing back and forth with a phone pressed to her ear. Beside the bed lay a motionless little girl. The sight was heartbreakingly familiar. Lucas knocked lightly on the door. Vivian turned, gesturing, "Do not disturb." But he had a job to do, and permission to enter. Lucas stepped inside, closing the door so gently that only the sound of the monitor filled the room. He began to mop the floor, slow, steady strokes. While working, his gaze paused on Clara. She looked so small beneath that oversized pink blanket. Her brown hair spread across the pillow, her pale face surrounded by breathing tubes and sensors. Lucas spoke softly, almost as if to someone asleep. "Hey there, I'm Lucas. I'm just cleaning your room. Your mom's here. She's really worried about you, and she loves you." Vivian froze mid-sentence on the phone. She glanced toward the monitor. A tiny flicker ran across the heart rate line. Not large, but enough to catch her eye. "I'll call you back," Vivian said quickly, hanging up. She turned sharply to Lucas. "What did you just do?" Lucas looked up, slightly startled. "I just talked to your daughter." "Talked? What for?" "Because I believe they can still hear. People in comas. I think they can hear us." Vivian stared at him as though he had said something absurd. "Who are you?" "Lucas Brennan, ma'am. Night shift janitor." "Janitor?" Vivian repeated, her tone growing cold. "Do you have any medical qualifications?" "No, ma'am, but I used to be a nurse's aide, and my wife was once in a coma." Vivian slowly approached. "Your wife? Did she wake up?" "For a while. Long enough to say goodbye," Lucas answered, his voice low. Silence settled between them. Vivian looked at the man in his simple uniform with rough, calloused hands. From him radiated something she hadn't seen in any expert who had entered this room. Sincerity. When she woke up, Vivian asked quietly, "What did she say?" She said, "I heard everything. Every word you said. Every song you sang. I knew you were there." Vivian swallowed hard. "And while she was in the coma, what did you do?" "I sat beside her. I talked. I read books. I sang. I told her about our day, about our son, about our memories. I didn't let her feel alone." "And you think that helped?" "I know it did. The doctor said her vitals stabilized when I was there. Her heartbeat steadied. Her brain activity increased." Vivian turned back toward the monitor, the numbers, the graphs, the data. For 3 days, she had stared at them, but in the end, they were only numbers. "Ms. Hart," Lucas said, "I'm not a doctor. I can't cure your daughter. But I know one thing. They know when someone is truly there." "Truly there? What does that mean?" "Not just physically present. With your heart, your mind, no phone, no email, no meetings, just presence." Those words pierced Vivian's chest like a blade. She glanced at her phone. She had checked it 17 times in 10 minutes. "I've been here the whole time," she protested, though her voice wavered. "Physically, yes," Lucas nodded. But where is your mind? Where is your heart? Vivian couldn't answer, because she knew the truth. Her mind was still in the Tokyo meeting, the quarterly report, the merger deal, everywhere but beside Clara. Lucas gathered his cart. Sorry if I crossed a line. I wish you and your daughter the best. He turned to leave. Wait, Vivian called. Lucas stopped. You said they can hear. Your wife heard you. Do you think? Vivian's voice trembled. Clara can hear me. Lucas looked at the monitor, at Clara, then back at Vivian. I think Clara's waiting for something. Waiting for what? Waiting for you to let her know it's safe to come back. Vivian frowned. Safe? I don't understand. Sometimes people don't wake up, not because they can't, but because they're not sure there's anything worth coming back to. The words struck Vivian's pride like thunder. She stepped back, her hand trembling. You're saying my daughter doesn't want to wake up because of me? Her voice cracked. I'm saying maybe Clara's lost, and she needs a guide. Not through technology or medicine, but through your voice. Through your love. Tears welled up, for the first time since Clara had been hospitalized. Vivian wiped them quickly, trying to remain composed, but Lucas saw them. I don't know how, she whispered. I don't know how to connect. I only know how to solve problems, to control, to work. Then learn, Lucas said softly. Clara's waiting, and you still have time. Vivian sank into the chair beside the bed, hollowed out by exhaustion. Can you teach me? Lucas blinked, surprised. I'm just a janitor. You're the only one who's said something that makes sense, Vivian said firmly, desperate yet sincere. The doctors have failed. The experts have failed. I've failed. But you know something we don't. Please, help me. Lucas was silent for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but there's one condition. Anything. You have to do exactly what I say, when I say it. No arguing, no logic fights, no trying to control. You must let go. Vivian Hart, the woman who always controlled everything, felt as though she were being asked to leap off a cliff. But when she looked at her small, motionless daughter, she realized she had no choice left. All right, she whispered. I'll do it. The next morning, exactly at 8 o'clock, Lucas stood at Clara's door, outside his scheduled shift. He had obtained special permission from the hospital administration. The conversation with the executive wasn't easy. Mr. Brennan, you're a janitor. You're not qualified to care for patients. I'm not providing medical care, Lucas explained. I just stay with them. Ms. Hart requested it, and I think it might help. Thanks to Vivian's sudden large donation, $500,000 to the Hospital Development Fund, Lucas was granted special family status to enter Clara's room during certain hours. Caleb Rowe, the head of PR, also drafted a liability waiver that both Vivian and Lucas signed. Lucas brought an old moss-green backpack. Inside, Clara's diary that Rosa had sent over, a simple music player, an old guitar, and a few printed photos from his phone, drawings Dylan had made for Clara, whom he had never met. Vivian was already waiting in the room. She looked exhausted, her hair no longer neatly tied but hanging loose, deep circles under her eyes, her suit wrinkled. She had barely slept all night, her mind replaying Lucas's words. For the first time in 3 days, the command center outside was empty. Vivian had taken down all the screens, sent the assistants home, canceled every meeting that week, for the first time in 15 years of her career. Are you ready? Lucas asked softly, setting the backpack down. Vivian nodded, though she herself didn't know what she was ready for. I did what you said, Turned off my phone, canceled everything. I'm here. That's the first step, Lucas smiled encouragingly. And the most important one. Lucas pulled a chair up close to Clara's bed and motioned for Vivian to sit beside him. First, I want you to tell me about Clara. Not grades or achievements. Not what subjects she excels at, or what awards she's won. I want to know who Clara is. What makes her laugh? What is she afraid of? What does she dream of? Favorite food? Favorite song? Best memory? Vivian opened her mouth, then closed it. A slow, cold horror rose from the bottom of her heart. She didn't know how to answer. Clara is very smart, Vivian began, her voice uncertain. Always top of her class. An IQ of 135. Advanced piano level, she's entered 3 competitions and won them all. Those are achievements, Lucas gently interjected, without a trace of judgment. I'm asking about Clara, the person behind the numbers. What color does she like? Vivian hesitated, her brow furrowing as she tried to recall. Color? Purple. No, wait. Blue or green? I'm not sure. Favorite food? Pasta? Or maybe pizza? Vivian's voice grew smaller. Rosa usually cooks for her. I don't remember. Favorite song? Silence. Best friend at school? Silence. When was the last time you heard Clara laugh? A real laugh? Not a polite smile? Vivian couldn't answer. She realized with mounting horror. She didn't remember. She didn't remember the last time she heard her daughter laugh. She didn't know her favorite song. She didn't know what she feared, dreamed of, or loved. She knew her daughter's GPA was 4.0. Knew she played Chopin, level 7. Knew she spoke French and Mandarin. But she didn't know who her daughter was. Tears sprang up on their own. Vivian hurriedly wiped them away. I'm a terrible mother. I don't even know my daughter's favorite color. You're not terrible, Lucas said softly. You're just disconnected. And that's why we're here. To reconnect. Lucas took a diary from the backpack, a worn purple leather notebook with a torn corner. Rosa found this in Clara's room. She writes every day. Maybe it'll help you hear Clara more clearly. Would you like me to read a passage? Vivian nodded, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles went white. Lucas opened to the first page, reading slowly and clearly. March 15th. Mom missed my piano performance again. I played Moonlight Sonata, the piece I practiced for 3 months. Rosa came and clapped really loud. Rosa cried when I finished. Rosa said I played like an angel. But I wanted Mom there. I wanted Mom to cry because she was proud, not Rosa. Rosa says Mom is busy changing the world. I wish Mom would just see me. Vivian's hands tightened. She bit her lip. Lucas turned another page. April 3rd. Today I got straight A's. The teacher called Mom to praise me. Mom was in a meeting, said she'd call back, but forgot. In the afternoon, Mom texted, I'm proud of you. Keep going. That was it. No call, no celebration. I would trade all my A's for one dinner with Mom. Just Mom and me, with no phone. Vivian's voice trembled. That's enough, please. But Lucas knew she needed to hear it, to face the truth. May 20th. Today I practiced the lullaby Mom used to sing when I was little. I found it on YouTube. Hush, little baby. I still remember Mom singing, her voice warm, her hand stroking my hair. Now Mom doesn't sing anymore. Mom doesn't hold me anymore. I practice that song and imagine Mom sitting there listening, but it's just imagination. Sometimes I think Mom doesn't remember me anymore. Not Clara, her daughter, but Clara. The result of Mom's successful project. Stop! Vivian burst into tears, her whole body shaking. "Please stop!" Lucas closed the diary and set it gently on the table. He let Vivian cry, without interrupting, without comforting, simply being there, present. After a long while, when the sobs eased, Lucas said, "Clara has been very clear about what she needs. She's been trying to say it for months, for years, but you didn't listen." "I've been working," Vivian choked out. "I've been building her future, making sure she has the best life, the best opportunities." "But Clara doesn't need a distant future," Lucas said, gentle yet direct. "She needs the present. She needs today. She needs now. Not after the company does better. Not after the next deal. Not when you have time. Now." Vivian covered her face, her shoulders shaking. For years she had believed she was doing the right thing. Believed that sacrificing time with her daughter to build an empire was a necessary trade-off. Believed that money and success would compensate for her absence. But the brutal truth was, she had missed her daughter's life. Missed the smiles, the tears, the whispers, the dreams. Missed it all. "I don't know what to do," Vivian stammered through tears. "I don't know how to be a good mother. I only know how to be a CEO, how to win in the boardroom. But here, I don't know." "Then learn," Lucas said. "Start today. Start by telling the truth." "What truth?" Lucas looked straight into her eyes. "The truths you fear most. The things you've kept inside because you think showing them would be weakness." Lucas stood, motioning for Vivian to stay. "I'm going to step out for 15 minutes. In that time, you're going to sit here, hold Clara's hand, and tell her 3 truths. Not future plans, not vague promises, just things from the heart, things you've never dared to say." I don't know what to say." "Then be silent until you do," Lucas said. "Clara's waiting. She's been waiting a very long time." Lucas stepped out, closing the door softly. Vivian was alone with her child. The room sunk into the steady beeping of machines, heart rate, ventilator, IV pumps. The fluorescent lights were cold. The smell of antiseptic was sharp. She took Clara's hand, small, so cold and light it was chilling. Long, slender fingers, the fingers of a pianist. A minute, 2, 3 passed. Vivian didn't know where to begin. Her throat felt strangled. "Clara, sweetheart." Her voice shook and cracked. I don't know what to say. Lucas told me I have to be honest, but I've spent so many years hiding, playing the role of a strong mother, a CEO who is never weak. I forgot who I really am." The monitor remained calm. The numbers didn't change. "This is ridiculous," Vivian sighed, discouraged. "You can't even hear me." Right then, the heart rate dipped slightly, from 66 to 63. Vivian startled, looking up. Did Clara react to her doubt, to her refusal to connect? She changed her tone, leaning closer. "All right, you're right, the truth. I owe you a lot of truths." The heart rate rose again, 64, 65. "Here's the first truth." Vivian took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "I'm scared. Not just scared of losing you, that's killing me every second, every minute. But I'm also scared that if you wake up, you won't want to be with me anymore. You'll look at me and see the person who abandoned you, the one who chose everything else before you. And you'll never forgive me." The heart rate climbed. 66, 67, 68. Vivian bent closer, her tears falling onto her daughter's hand. "Because I know I don't deserve it. I know I haven't been the mother you needed. I was so busy proving to the world that a woman could build an empire. I forgot that you needed me to build a home." Clara's fingers twitched, a minute movement, almost imperceptible, but real. Vivian held her breath, her heart pounding wildly. Clara, can you hear me? No further response, but Vivian knew something had shifted. A wall was beginning to crack. All right, the second truth, Vivian went on, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every piano performance I missed. I'm sorry for every breakfast you ate alone with Rosa instead of with me. I'm sorry for every canceled dinner, every weekend I traveled for work, every time I said, "Just a minute, honey," and then forgot. I'm sorry for every time I chose a meeting over you, chose email over a bedtime story, chose success over you. I thought I was building your future, but I was actually destroying your present. On the monitor, the brainwave activity ticked upward. The green curves oscillated more strongly, indicating the brain was processing information. Amy Collins, the nurse doing hallway rounds, glanced in through the window and froze. She had never seen Clara's numbers improve like that. She quietly noted it on the chart, not daring to interrupt. And the third truth, Vivian said, her voice completely shattered, is that I love you. I love you more than everything I've ever built, more than Heart Tech, more than every award, more than every achievement, more than $3 billion in the bank. You are the only thing that truly matters in my life, and I've been so blind I couldn't see it. I let work, ego, and fear of failure blind me. But now I see clearly. Now I know. Nothing in this world is more important than you. Please forgive me. Please give me a chance to make it right. Please come back to me. Vivian laid her forehead on her daughter's small hand, her whole body shaking with sobs. Tears flowed without end, soaking the white sheet. In that moment, on the monitor, a small miracle occurred. Heart rate rose to 70, the highest since Clara fell into the coma. Brainwave activity increased markedly, especially in the emotional processing regions. Blood pressure stabilized, no more fluctuations. Clara's fingers curled slightly, as if trying to grip her mother's hand. The door opened softly. Lucas stepped in, glanced at the monitor, then smiled. A knowing, warm smile. You told the truth, didn't you? Vivian looked up, her face wet with tears, eyes reddened. All of it. Everything I never dared to say. Then you've taken the first step, Lucas said quietly, sitting down. Clara is listening. She has been listening. How do you know? Lucas pointed at the screen. The numbers don't lie. Her heart rate is steadier. Her brain activity is higher. She heard you. And more importantly, she felt you. What should I do next? Vivian asked, and for the first time her voice carried real hope. Keep talking, Lucas replied. Every day. No armor, no walls, no CEO persona. Only you, Vivian, the mother. And slowly, she'll find her way back. Will you stay and help me? As long as I'm needed, Lucas promised. We'll bring Clara home together. Each day, Lucas entered Clara's room and taught Vivian a small lesson about connection. Day 2. The lesson of listening. Lucas set the diary down on the table. Today, you'll reread every page of the diary, and after each page, you'll answer Clara. Say what you wish you had said on the day she wrote those lines. Vivian read from the diary, her voice trembling. February 10th. Today, I drew a family picture for Mom. In the picture, there's Mom, me, and Rosa. I drew Mom smiling. I want to see Mom smile more. I gave the drawing to Mom while she was on a video call. Mom said, "It's beautiful, honey," but didn't look. Mom didn't look at me. She only looked at the screen. Vivian closed the book, tears falling onto the page. Then she opened it again, leaned toward her daughter, and gripped Clara's hand. Clara, sweetheart, that day, when you drew that picture, I should have stopped everything. I should have shut the laptop, hung up the phone. I should have looked into your eyes and asked about every detail. Why you drew me smiling. Why you chose blue for the sky. How you felt while you were drawing. I should have held you and said, "This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received." Then I should have hung it on my office wall to see it every day, to remember that this is what matters most. I'm sorry I didn't do that. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. On the monitor, Clara's brain waves oscillated more actively, the peaks higher, showing her brain was processing deep emotion. Vivian continued through each page, and after each one, she answered. The words she should have said. The actions she should have taken. Every reply was an apology, a promise. A hug made of words. Lucas sat quietly in the corner, observing. Sometimes he prompted, "Be more specific. Don't say, 'I'll do better.' Say, 'I will come to your next recital, sit in the front row, and clap the loudest.'" And Vivian learned, line by line, word by word, promise by concrete promise. Day 4. The Lesson of Music and Memory. Lucas brought his old guitar, a battered Yamaha marked by years of use. "Did you used to sing lullabies to Clara?" Vivian nodded, a faraway ache in her eyes. "There was a song from when she was tiny. 'Hush, little baby.' My mother sang it to me when I was little, and I sang it to Clara. But I don't remember all the words anymore. It's been too long." "Then write new words," Lucas suggested. "Or just sing what you remember, and then sing the things you want Clara to know. It doesn't have to be perfect. It only has to be sincere." Vivian hesitated, her hands shaking. She hadn't sung in front of anyone in years. Her voice was no longer as clear as before, but Lucas nodded encouragingly. Vivian began, at first shaky, broken. "Hush, little baby. Don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird." Her voice caught. She stopped. "Keep going," Lucas said softly. "She's listening." Vivian drew a deep breath and continued, her voice growing steadier. "And if that mockingbird won't sing, Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring." On the screen, Clara's heart rate rose slightly. Not much, but steadier, warmer. Then Vivian stopped singing the old lyrics. She began to sing words from her heart. "And if the world feels too scary, and if you feel all alone, I'll be here, right beside you, holding you through every storm. Though I missed so many days, though I wasn't here before, I am home now, and I'm staying. Always, my child, evermore." Tears streamed down Vivian's cheeks, but she didn't stop. She finished the song, her voice cracked but full of love. When silence fell again, Lucas pointed to the monitor. "Look." Clara's eyelids fluttered, just a flicker, like a butterfly's wing, but enough for Vivian to notice. "Clara!" Vivian gasped, gripping her daughter's hand. "You hear Mommy, don't you? You remember the song, don't you?" There was no further response, but hope had been lit. "Sing to her every day," Lucas said. "Music opens parts of the brain that words can't reach, especially music tied to memory, to love." From that day on, every morning and every night, Vivian sang to Clara. She didn't care who heard, didn't care whether she was on pitch. She just sang. From the heart. Day 7. The Lesson of Forgiving Yourself. A week after they began, Lucas found Vivian sitting on the floor by Clara's bed, knees drawn up, face in her hands, crying. Nurse Amy Collins stood at the door, worried. "Miss Hart, are you all right? Can I get you anything?" Vivian looked up, her face wet with tears. "I'm just talking to my daughter. I'm apologizing. I have so many things to be sorry for." Amy glanced at Lucas, who was sitting in the corner, his guitar propped against the wall. What kind of miracle are you working here, Mr. Brennan? Lucas shook his head gently. Not me, Amy. Her. She's learning to love bigger than her fear. Amy checked the readings, eyes widening. This is unbelievable. Clara's metrics have improved steadily every day. Heart rate stabilized, blood pressure normal, brain waves highly active. I've worked ICU for 12 years and never seen recovery like this in a coma patient with no clear cause. Do you believe in miracles, Amy? Lucas asked with a faint smile. Amy looked at Clara, then at Vivian, then at Lucas. In her eyes rose surprise, emotion, and a small sprout of faith. I'm starting to. After Amy left, Lucas sat down beside Vivian. Are you okay? I don't know, Vivian answered honestly. Every day I face what I've done, or rather, what I haven't done, and it presses on me like a stone. How can I be forgiven? By forgiving yourself first, Lucas said. You can't love Clara well if you hate yourself. You can't give her peace if you're full of guilt. But I deserve the guilt. No, Lucas cut in, firm. You made mistakes. You hurt your daughter. That's true, but you're not a bad person. You were lost. And now you're finding your way back. That's what matters. Vivian was silent, letting the words sink in. Clara doesn't need a perfect mother, Lucas continued. She needs a real one. Someone who dares to admit mistakes. Someone who dares to change. Someone who chooses to stay, no matter how hard it gets. Vivian nodded slowly, the tears still falling but lighter. Thank you, Lucas. Not just for teaching me how to talk to Clara, for teaching me how to see myself again. Lucas smiled. You're doing so well. Clara can feel it. Trust me. Richard Hart, Vivian's ex-husband, showed up on a rainy afternoon. He gave no notice, simply appeared with a lawyer, a tall, thin man in a gray pinstripe suit, carrying a black briefcase packed with documents. Vivian was seated by Clara's bed, reading a fairy tale, The Little Prince, in a gentle voice, when the door swung open. Vivian, we need to talk, Richard said, his voice as cold as ever, offering no greeting. Vivian looked up, exhausted. Richard, what are you doing here? About Clara's care. Richard stepped in, surveying the room with disdain. I hear you've abandoned actual medicine to follow. What? A spiritual therapy? With a janitor? Lucas, sitting in the corner with Dylan, his son, who had asked to come visit Clara, rose to his feet. I should step out. No, Vivian said firmly, steadier than she had ever sounded. Stay. Lucas. Richard looked Lucas up and down, eyes full of contempt. This is the man you trust more than doctors from Johns Hopkins? This is the man who understands my daughter better than any doctor who's walked in here, Vivian replied. And I trust him. St. The lawyer opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick packet. Ms. Hart, my client consulted with Dr. Browning at Stanford Medical Center. They have advanced neural implant technology capable of stimulating the brain back into activity. The success rate in trials is 42%. No, Vivian cut in. You haven't even heard. I said no. No more procedures. No more experiments. Clara is recovering in her own way. Richard let out a derisive laugh. Recovering? Vivian, she's been in a coma for over 2 weeks. The longer this goes on, the more irreversible the brain damage. You're rejecting science for, what? Faith? Hope? I'm choosing love, Vivian answered, her voice strangely calm. The thing you and I never gave Clara enough of. Richard froze for a second, then regained himself. You're not thinking straight. The board is concerned about your mental state. Shareholders are questioning your leadership. And I, as Clara's father, have the right to intervene if I see my daughter being denied proper care. Now you care about being a father." Vivian stood, her voice rising. "Where were you these 9 years? Where were you when Clara took her first steps? Where were you when she started first grade? Where were you when she cried because there was no dad on Father's Day? I paid child support in full." "Money!" Vivian nearly shouted. "That's all you and I ever knew. Throw money at a problem and assume it fixes itself. But Clara doesn't need money. She needs family." Dylan, the 9-year-old boy, spoke up suddenly, his voice trembling. "Sir, do you love Clara?" Everyone turned to look at him. "What did you say?" Richard stared at Dylan as if at an insect. "I asked if you love Clara," Dylan repeated, braver now. "Because my dad says when you love someone, you stay with them. You talk to them. You don't leave them alone." Lucas placed a hand on Dylan's shoulder. "Buddy, the grown-ups are—" "No," Vivian said. "Let him speak." Dylan went on, looking at Richard with clear, steady eyes. "My mom died last year. My dad stayed with her every day. He sang to her, told her stories, and she woke up. Just a little, but enough to say goodbye. My dad says it was a miracle. The miracle of love. If you love Clara, why weren't you here before now?" The room was so quiet, the machine's breathing could be heard. Richard opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time in his life, the man who always had an answer had none. Vivian stepped forward, positioning herself between Richard and Clara's bed. "You want to help Clara? Then go. Go and let me do what I should have done long ago. Be her mother." "If you keep down this path," Richard said, voice ice-cold, "I'll file for medical decision-making authority. I'll argue you're no longer mentally fit to make decisions for her, and I will win. I have the best lawyers, evidence that you've abandoned science for superstition." "Go ahead," Vivian replied, her voice like steel. "And in court, I'll present Clara's diary. Every page she wrote about you, about the birthdays you missed, the time you forgot her name in the custody hearing, the merger you chose over her school play, the money you sent instead of your presents. I'll read every line out loud. Let the court hear Clara write, 'Sometimes I wish Dad remembered who I am.' What picture do you think that paints for a judge?" Richard went pale. "And I'll also tell them," Vivian continued mercilessly, "that when your daughter lay in a coma, it took you 2 weeks to show up. 2 weeks. While this janitor," she pointed at Lucas, "was here every day. He's teaching me how to love my daughter. And you, her biological father, care only about stock prices and contracts." The lawyer tugged at Richard's sleeve. "Perhaps we should—" "Go ahead and sue me," Vivian said at last. "I'll fight. Not for ego, not for power. For my daughter. And this time, I won't lose." Richard looked at the woman who used to be his wife, the woman he thought he understood, and realized he didn't know her at all. She had changed. She was no longer the cold CEO. She was Vivian Hart, the mother. Fierce, unyielding, and ready to sacrifice everything. Richard turned and left without a word. The lawyer hurried after him. The door clicked shut. Silence settled. Vivian sat down, her whole body shaking. I've never done that before." "Done what?" Lucas asked softly. "Put Clara first. Choose her above everything. Confront someone powerful to protect her. I've never fought for her like that." Lucas smiled, proud. "But you just did, and Clara heard it. Every word you said. She knows you chose her." Dylan stepped forward and handed Vivian a drawing. "For Sister Clara, I drew this for her. This is her and you holding hands. And there's a rainbow above. My dad says rainbows mean hope." Vivian took the paper, tears spilling again. But this time, they were tears of relief, of gratitude. "Thank you, Dylan. I'll hang it where Clara can see it when she wakes up." "Will she wake up?" Dylan asked, anxious. "She will," Vivian answered, for the first time with steady certainty. "She's coming home." Midnight on day 18, in the pale blue glow of the monitors, Vivian dozed in the chair beside the bed. For the first time in many nights, she slept, not because she was less worried, but because she had done everything she could. She had given all she had to give. Truth, love, promises. Now there was only waiting. Lucas stopped by on his night shift as usual with Dylan alongside him. The boy hadn't been able to sleep after seeing Richard that afternoon, his heart full of worry for Clara. "Dad, will Clara be okay?" Dylan whispered as they entered the ICU corridor. "Are you praying for her?" Lucas asked. Dylan nodded. "Then believe in that," Lucas said, smoothing his son's hair. "Sometimes belief is all we need." Father and son slipped into room 317 as quietly as possible, careful not to wake Vivian. Dylan stepped up to the bed and gazed at Clara for a long moment. Then he spoke softly, as if afraid to shatter something fragile. "Hi, Clara. I'm Dylan. My dad and your mom are trying to help you come home." Clara's fingers twitched, just a little, but Dylan saw it. "Dad! She reacted," he whispered, excited. Lucas glanced at the screen, his eyes widening. REM activity spike. Clara is dreaming. Not an ordinary dream, but deep REM. What does that mean? It means she's very close, Dylan. Very close to waking. Her brain is preparing to come back online. Dylan bent closer and kept talking to Clara. "Your mom looks tired, but the peaceful kind of tired, not tense like before. She's been sitting with you all day, singing to you, telling you stories. She's changed a lot. My dad says that's a miracle." Vivian startled awake at the sound of Dylan's voice. She looked up to see Lucas and Dylan, and the monitor flashing unusual readings. "What's happening?" Vivian stood, alarm in her voice. Lucas pointed at the screen, his tone bright with excitement. "Clara is more active than ever. Brain waves, heart rate, everything's up. She's fighting to wake." "What do I need to do?" Vivian asked, her hands shaking. Lucas looked at her, serious but warm. "What you've been doing. But this time, not just apologies. Paint her a picture of home. Tell Clara why she should come back. Give her a reason. Something specific. Clear. Beautiful." Vivian sat and clasped her daughter's hand. Her voice trembled but brimmed with resolve. "Clara, sweetheart, I know you're there. I believe you're listening. And I need you to know something very important. Heart rate up, 68, 70, 72. When you wake up, not if, but when, everything will be different, completely different." Vivian drew a breath and continued, her voice steady. "I've resigned as CEO of Heart Tech, baby. I called the board yesterday. They'll find a replacement. The company can exist without me, but I cannot exist without you." The brain waves grew stronger. "When you come home, we'll eat breakfast together every day. Not flavorless granola. Whatever you like. Pancakes with honey, peanut butter and banana, even pastries if you want. And I'll sit there, with no phone, no emails, just you and me, talking about last night's dreams, about today, about anything you want." Clara's fingers curled slightly. "I'll drive you to school every morning. Not the driver. Me. And I'll pick you up every afternoon. On the way home, we'll stop for ice cream. Any flavor you like." Dylan smiled softly, moved. "We'll eat dinner at the table, every night. No phones, no computers, no work. Just us, talking about our day. And if you want to tell a long story, I'll listen to every word. Heart rate to 75. I'll come to every one of your piano performances, front row, every time. I'll clap the loudest, cry the proudest, and hug you the tightest. On Friday nights, we'll have movie night. You pick. Any genre, even the silly cartoons I used to forbid. We'll have popcorn, candy, chocolate, and I'll let you stay up late and fall asleep on the sofa with your head in my lap. Vivian's voice caught, tears spilled. On weekends, we'll go places. Museums, parks, the beach, the circus. Anywhere you want. We'll waste time together, gloriously, joyfully. And every night, before you sleep, I'll sit by your bed. I'll sing this song. Vivian began to sing, her voice trembling, but strangely beautiful. Hush, little baby. Don't you cry. Mama's here to hold you tight. Through the darkness, through the fear, Mama's love will keep you near. The monitor began to chirp alarms, not bad alerts, but signals that something big was changing. Clara's eyelids parted, a tiny slit, but this time clearer, longer. Vivian kept singing, breathless, her voice shaking. And when morning light appears, Mama will wipe away your tears. Hand in hand, we'll face the day. Together, love will light the way. Clara's hand squeezed her mother's, a small but deliberate motion. Clara! Vivian cried, laughing through tears. Sweetheart, I'm here. I'm right here. Clara's lips moved, a whisper as thin as the dawn breeze. Mom? Right here, baby. I'm here. I'll never leave you again. Mom, sing the song. Yes, sweetheart. I sang it again. I remember it all. I'm sorry I forgot for so long. Clara's eyes opened a little wider, those misted blue eyes, but seeing, searching. I heard everything, every word. I was waiting. Waiting for what, baby? Vivian cupped her daughter's face. Waiting for Mom to come back, too. That simple, pure, honest sentence pierced Vivian's heart like an arrow. All this time, it wasn't only Clara who had been in a coma. Vivian had been too. Both had been lost in the dark. And now, they had found each other. I've come back, baby. Vivian wept, kissing her daughter's forehead. I've come back, and I'm staying. I promise. I swear it with all my heart. Clara's eyes drifted closed, but this time it wasn't a coma. It was healing sleep, a peaceful rest, wrapped in love. A small, almost unconscious smile touched Clara's lips. Movie. Night? She whispered, before drifting off. Vivian laughed through tears. Every Friday night, sweetheart. As soon as you come home. I promise. Love you. I love you too, my darling. So much. Clara took exactly 3 months to make a full recovery. Physical therapy, speech therapy, psychotherapy. Her schedule was packed. Some days barely left room to breathe. But the biggest difference was this. Vivian showed up for every session. No exceptions. During that time, the relationship between mother and daughter was rebuilt from the ground up. Vivian learned to listen instead of argue. Clara learned to trust instead of retreat. And together, they mended what had been broken. Vivian donated part of her fortune to found Voices at Dawn, a free support center for families with children in the ICU. The center was built right inside Swedish First Hill Hospital, just a few corridors away from room 317, where once a little girl had lain still under a pink blanket, and a mother had learned how to call her child back to life. At the opening ceremony, Clara, now healthy and strong, stood on a small stage. 3 months ago, I was asleep, she said, her voice small but clear. But I heard everything. I heard the doctors talk about my brain like it was a computer. I heard the machines beeping. But what I needed to hear was my mom saying she loved me. Lucas and his son Dylan taught my mom how to talk to me. And that's what woke me up. Not medicine. Love. This place is for other kids who also need to hear that they're loved. And for the parents who might have forgotten how to say it. Applause filled the room. Many eyes were red. Tissues passed from hand to hand. A year later, on Clara's 10th birthday, they held a small backyard party at their new home. Not the cold penthouse high above the city, but a real home, with grass, trees, and a creaky swing in the breeze. Lucas, Dylan, Rosa, Nurse Amy Collins, Dr. Nora Bennett, and a few of Clara's friends were all there. Clara sat at the piano. She had relearned to play through therapy, and music flowed out, warm and full like sunlight. Vivian stood beside Lucas, both quiet, both moved. "You saved my daughter," Vivian whispered. Lucas shook his head. "No, you did. I just reminded you how. I don't know how to thank you enough." "Don't thank me. Keep showing up. That's the best thanks." Clara blew out the candles. Dylan and the other kids sang, "Happy Birthday." The smile on Clara's face glowed, not the smile of a lonely child anymore, but of one who knew she was loved. People ask me what I remember from the coma. I remember the darkness, but more than that, I remember the voices. The voices that refused to let go of me. The voices that reminded me I was loved. They say miracles are rare, but I think they happen every day. Every time someone chooses presence over convenience. Every time someone says, "I see you." Every time someone refuses to give up on love. My mom saved my life, but only after Lucas taught her how to save herself. This is our miracle. Not just waking up once, but staying awake. Continuing to choose each other. Every day. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched you, even just a little, please subscribe to the channel to help us keep the flame alive for the small miracles of everyday life. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next story, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. And if there's a name you'd like me to read aloud in the next Voices at Dawn session, leave it below. We'll keep choosing each other every day.